Welcome to this topic video on sessions. Okay, Express sessions in particular, and we are going to be going through an example that's based on a JSON server. I have another set of slides that goes through a template-based server that does server-side rendering. This, though, is for a JSON server that you'd use with, say, a React front end or other type of app front end. Okay, so let's get going. So, why another library? If you recall, we did a security overview where we learned about CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Then we got into authentication and authorization, right? Because we were concerned with making sure people only get to see what they should be able to see, confidentiality, and only get to change what they should be allowed to change, integrity. Okay, so we needed an access control framework. Okay, and ours is built on authentication, authorization, and accounting. Okay, the AAA principle. Okay, then we went even further and explained that for user interfaces, we need to be able to keep people logged in without making them re-authorize every time they do something. Okay, so we needed sessions. Okay, so we explained the concept of sessions kind of in a theoretical way, where a server is going to keep state, okay, but it's going to associate that state with a user via something known as a session ID. Okay, and it's going to be sending that back and forth in the cookie. Okay, as we learned, sessions are a prime attack point for websites and web apps because a compromised session ID is as bad as a compromised password or a compromised multi-factor authentication. Okay, so people want to go, attackers want to go after those things. Okay, if it's worthwhile to them monetarily or otherwise. Okay, so instead of doing something from scratch, which isn't recommended when you do things involving security, it's good to use a well-proven library. Okay, so we're going to use Express Sessions library. Okay, and no, it doesn't have 600K weekly downloads. Last time I looked, well, let's go check. Express Sessions library. Okay. Yeah, 867,000 weekly downloads. People have built this into a number of servers out there. And the way you get numbers that big is because people use it on servers that get spun up, that are used for scaling up websites. So that means multiple servers out there are running this thing. Okay. There's some references. Okay. Hopefully this walkthrough will help you throughout. But there's some write-ups out there that are kind of useful, I think. Okay. Now, what's this going to do for us? Okay. Because we saw when we learned about session management, there was a bunch of OWASP. What does OWASP stand for? Open Web Application Security Project, or something like that. They had a bunch of rules for dealing with sessions. Okay, so one of the important things is managing session IDs, their creation, their deletion, their validation. Okay, other things include associating the session IDs with the session storage. Okay, simplifying that aspect for us. Okay. Other things, which kind of goes in with session management, but kind of advanced, signing and validating cookies. Okay, we don't want people messing with our sessions or session IDs. Okay, so we use cryptographic signing of those cookies. We don't. Express Session will do this for us. Okay. In addition, these guys didn't reinvent the wheel either. They use cryptographically strong session ID generation using another library that's been well proven. They use cookie signing and verification from another library for cookie signatures. Okay? Now, for session storage in production environments, there's a long list of adapters that will work with Express Sessions. So any of your favorite databases, and even the teeny tiny one that I like to use for teaching, there's an adapter available. Okay, now how's this going to work? We get to figure out when sessions are established. We are going to establish the session as soon as a user visits our site, okay, before even they log in, because we want to keep track of their login status or role. Okay, we can also keep track of is whatever other user information we like. Okay, this is our design. Okay, what state we want to keep with the user. Do we want to keep preferences, shopping carts? We keep databases on users. What things do we need or want to keep that's available every time a request comes in? Okay. After login, we'll make sure some of this basic user information is available to the web server application that can do things with it. Okay. That's the idea here. Now, what's it going to do? If the Express Session middleware, remember everything that we add to Express looks like a function that we add on paths, okay? An Express Session, everything we do in Express.js looks like a function, a route handler function, okay? Middleware, the session middleware we're going to use, is just applied very generally to many different paths, okay? Now, how does it work? Okay, we're going to set it up to use it. If it sees an HTTP request without a cookie, okay, at the first visit to the site, okay, without a cookie with the session ID, it will generate one and allocate associated session storage, okay? If the middleware sees an HTTP request with a cookie, it will validate that session ID to make sure that that cookie, make sure it's really from us, validate the session ID, and it will retrieve the stored session information, okay? And attach it to the Express request parameter for easy use by our software, okay? We're not going to see all this other stuff going on underneath, all that cool cryptographic stuff, okay? All this stuff, we're not going to see. They're going to do that for us, okay? Oops, sorry, where was that? Okay, without a cookie. The session middleware works with a session store of your choosing, okay? However, we're just starting our development with sessions. It comes, Express Session, with a simple session store only suitable for development purposes. Basically, just going to allocate memory off the heap and attach it, okay, to those request options, okay? So that's not suitable for deployment or real deployments, but it's fine for us to get started with development, okay? Because what we see from the point of view of our route handler functions is the same, okay? So we're going to look at a JSON-based API, okay? So this is a server that basically does everything via JSON calls except loading up the initial app, okay, which we aren't showing here. Okay, so your app could be in React or Vue or whatever, okay, and you would talk to this site via JSON calls. It has a JSON API, okay. So we're creating, in this example, and these are in this zip, okay, a tour company. The tour company has 3 different types of user rules. Okay, so this is role-based access control. So we have 3 different user roles: guest, customer, and admin. This is our job to define these things, right? Security guys can't tell us what people can do what and stuff like that. We're the ones that come up with these types of rules. Okay? Only for us, admins can add tours. Okay? All users can see tours or log in. Okay? So we're going to have some APIs. Tours. Get a list of tours in JSON. Login. Post takes email and passwords and returns user info. If everything goes well. Log out. Why would we do that? Oh, because this would be the app. Okay, and we'll return some basic user info so the app can say, "Hello, so and so," and it'll talk to them by name rather than something else. Okay. Log out. It's a GET request. It ends the session. Add tour. Takes the tour data only for admin users. Okay, so that's the idea here. Now, server initialization. So let's go and take a look at this code right in the editor. So we're using Express. We're using Express sessions. We're using bcrypt for our password hashing. Okay. Now, I'm going to give my cookie name a specific name. I'm going to call it tour session ID, tour sit. Okay. Now this is how I set up the basics of Express sessions. Okay. This is what everyone of some form needs to do. Okay, because this kicks things off. Use session. So I'm applying it generally. It's the first piece of route handling software that, functionality that gets hit. So all requests will go through this. Okay. So what's going to happen here? What do we have here? We have a secret. What's this secret for? And why am I showing this to you? This is for signing this is for secure signing of the cookies. Okay, so we can validate the cookies. Okay. Say those things not terribly relevant right this second. Oh, and we can specify the cookie name. Okay. Now, what else do I have here? I've got some fake users that have been secured. Okay, that'll be for logging in. I've got some initial tour data too. Okay. Secure users, as usual. Okay. We never ever put the password in here. Okay. This is the file that I'm using on the server. Okay. No passwords in the clear allowed. Now, obviously, to test this stuff from the client, I do need to know the passwords of those users, okay? But never, ever, ever put any passwords in the clear on the server up with the server. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so that's the first step, okay? Fake user information, okay? Now, that initializes the server. Now, what about session stuff? Well, see, they don't know, the Express session people, what kind of information we want to keep. Because we could just be keeping user preferences. We could be keeping count of the number of times this user visits this page, or how many times they visit all the other different pages on the site. Okay, it's flexible. Okay, so we need to tell it what we're going to keep. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a function to initialize session state. Okay, this is going to happen after. Okay, where is this going to happen? So first, we applied the session middleware. Okay, this is the one that sets up the cookies and stuff like that. Now, they don't know much about session state and such like that. So, okay, here's my setup session middleware. I've got some debugging information just so we can see what's going on. Okay, remember, their middleware would have already run. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the session that they hand us. Okay, remember we said what they're going to do is they're going to have a session with each call. They're going to process it. They're going to allocate session storage. Okay, then they're going to hand that to us to use this is where they give it to us, okay, where we can add stuff to it, okay. They have a couple pieces of information in there that we shouldn't mess with. One thing is the session.id, okay, because that is actually the session ID that they put in the cookie, okay. However, we can add additional information. This is our initialization, okay. We basically ask, hey, is there a field in the session called user? If not, initialize it to, just set it to this object. This object doesn't have anything in it other than one field that says role is guest. As you might guess, we're going to actually, when somebody logs in, that's going to get a lot more information in it, or at least a bit more information, and their role will change from guest to member or to admin. Okay, but this is how we set things up. This is where we put it into use. Okay, remember, this function, since we're adding it first, it sets up the session, processes things, that gets applied first. Okay, our session middleware gets applied second. Okay, so the session stuff will have been created for us to use. Okay, and this is what we mean by we determine what's going to go in there. We don't even have to call it a user. What we call that variable. The only thing we can't do is don't mess with ID. Okay, because they use that. Okay, so that's what's our setup. But remember, we're going to keep track of things. Okay, one of the most important things is keeping track of the rule. Now, our job in doing this, okay, is to protect the path. Okay? Now, if a user is a guest, okay, in our app, we will only show them certain things. Okay, but no matter what happens on the server, we've got to protect the server to make sure that only the appropriate paths get called. So let's generate some middleware for this. This is my check customer middleware. Okay. Okay. And it's as simple as check if the role is equal to guest. If the role is equal to guest, meaning it's not a member, not a user or a customer. I can't remember. It's not a customer or an admin. Okay, not a user or an admin of our tour company. We send back status 401, an error code, and since we're working with JSON with our app, we're going to send back a JSON message saying, hey, there's an error. This isn't permitted, okay? And for debug purposes, while we're getting the server going, I'm going to stringify what happened so I can take a look at things, okay? Now, I've got another piece of middleware to restrict paths only to admins, okay? Check admin middleware. Oh, if session user dot role. Really? That's all you have to do? And otherwise rejected, and that's that? Yeah. Okay. Because we can have a lot of APIs. Okay. Making it easy to protect. Okay. Those APIs. Make sure we have a confidentiality and integrity. So this is check customer middleware. Check admin middleware. Easy to use. Okay. So here, get the tours. Okay, it's going to return JSON of the tours. Okay, add tour. Check admin middleware. Okay, so let's see this. We want to add tour. Check admin middleware. Oh, that's right. We need middleware to process JSON in the body. Okay, so here we're using two different pieces of middleware, and that's after the express sessions middleware is kicked in. Okay. Now, function resrect, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to get the information out. We're going to add it to our tours, etc., etc. Okay. Let's see. Login available to everyone. Okay, and log out, it's available to everyone. Okay. So here was our protected path. Now, login processing. Okay, let's take a look at login processing. This is probably the most complicated function we've got here. But it all makes sense. Okay, first of all, it's a post. Okay, so we're going to expect to get stuff in the body. We got express JSON to process the JSON body. Okay, we pulled the email and the password out of the body. Okay, now we're going to look up in our little user mock user database. It's just an array. So we're going to use the find function, find a user with the matching email, and put it into a user. Okay. If the user wasn't found, there's no matching email, we respond with an error code, and then we just say, and a JSON message. Why JSON? Because we're sending this back to our app. Okay, we're going to say error true. Okay. Message, user, password, error. Okay. Now, this returns. Now, we're assuming we found the user. Now we're going to check the password. Okay. We're going to use bcrypt compare sync. Okay. Doing this simply, not the asynchronous versions. Password and compare the password. It's going to verify, compare the sync against the password hash that's stored. Okay, on the server. Okay. If verified, oh, that's right, we have a rule. Oh, well, what happens if we're not verified? Look, res status 401, we're going to send back an error code, and we're going to send back error true, message, user, password, error. Okay. So now, if it's verified, what was the rule? Oh, anytime you change the privilege, we have to update the session ID. Okay. And express sessions is specified as a way for doing that. Okay. And we just call it here. So we get the sessions. Okay. We call the regenerate function. It's going to regenerate session ID. Okay. What we're going to do in here, there's some error handling. Then, okay, we're going to keep the old information. Okay. We're saving some of that old information. Just going to get rid of the new. It's going to blow that stuff away because we're generating a new session ID and such like that for this. Okay. Then we're going to take all this good information and put it back into the session user. Okay. So basically, when they say regenerate, we're going to take that old session. We're going to save any information if we want to keep it. It's going to create a new session thing. Okay. And then we can just add to it. Okay. Now, what am I sending back? I'm going to send them back information about the user, okay, like first name, last name, okay, so we can have our app knows who they are and can be friendly to them, okay. So the only tricky thing here is we're calling the session regenerate to create a new session. We saved the information before, okay, about the user, okay, and such like that, okay. Good. Now, you may be wondering, gee, how do we test this stuff? Okay, good question. Okay, we need to make calls. Okay, and so we're going to use node fetch. Okay, what we've been using on the server side is a fetch library that looks just like the one in the browser. Okay. We're going to, we need a function for handling cookies. Okay. I'm going to create a tour that I'd like to have. Oh, okay. Now what do we got here? That's right. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to need to log in as an admin and then add tours. Oh, so let's here's our different tests. Try adding a tour without logging in. Okay, we expect that to fail. Okay, log in as admin, then try adding the tour. Okay, so what am I going to do here? Log in admin URL. So let's see. Login admin, okay, so URL base, okay, options, okay, we're going to do post, okay, that requires a little bit more work, we're going to stringify, there's the email, there's the password, oh, we're going to tell it headers and stuff like that, okay, this interface is takes a little bit more effort, okay, so we've set all that stuff up, okay. We wait, we use async and await, so we wait for the result to come back, which is the result, okay. Now we're going to look at the cookies, okay. We're going to extract the cookies with that little program. It's just some string manipulation of the format of the cookie, so don't sweat it too much. Just we're getting the cookie back out, okay. Putting in the saved cookie, we're going to print that out for us to see, okay. Now, add tour options headers dot cookie. Where's add tour? Add tour. Okay, not login admin. Here, add tour. Oh, look, there's the headers. We're going to add headers dot cookie. Ah, okay. So we're going to add the cookie we got back. If we don't, they won't know who we are. That's right. That's right. Because in the first test, here, we try adding without logging in. Okay. So we need the saved cookie. We set it in the tours, the options that we're going to use for the second fetch. Okay. The second fetch, okay, is going to add the tours, okay, and it's got the cookie in its options, okay. Then we're going to see what comes back. Okay. Finally, I'm going to log in as a customer. Then try adding the tours. Okay. So to do this, what do I need? I need a server running, and I need to run the server. I need to run the test program. So let's do this. Okay. Node server run. What is server run? Oh, it's just a little function that has some deployment implementation specifics in it, like host and port stuff. Okay. Everything else is just in the tours server. Okay. It just exports the whole app. Got it. Okay. Nice trick if you have to go between development and deployment. Okay. Now, I also did a similar thing for testing. Okay. I have a test little function. Okay. But where were we? Server run. Okay. No. Server run. Okay. Now, look at the add tour test. Okay. There's that function extract cookie. Here's all that add tour code. Let's watch what happens by watching both these windows. Oops, that there. Add tour test. Watch both these windows. Hopefully this will work. Now, let's watch this here. Okay. Try adding tour without logging in. Add tour. Result unauthorized. Okay. Tour JSON session cookie blah 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 blah. Session ID. Okay. Session ID. We got a bunch of different session IDs going on. They're visiting. Let's see if we're going to see somebody trying to log in. Ooh, look. Here we go. Session object, cookie, blah, blah, blah. User information. Role, admin, net ID, blah, blah, blah. First name, last name. Oh, email. Not whole thing right there. Okay. Login results. Here's where we logged in. Okay. The saved cookie. Big long thing. IMZ. Does that that corresponds up here for that session ID. Remember, this is encoded in a certain way, so that's why we have those percent signs and stuff like that. Okay, but that's the session ID in there. Okay, then there's also signing stuff. Okay, now so we see back, they sent us back the login stuff. Now we're going to go add a tour. Okay, results. Okay, so we got back the tour. Okay, log in as customer. Now we're going to have another login. Okay, that's here. Liberty, Mendez, name, blah, blah, blah. So they logged in, but their role is customer. They tried adding a tour. What happened? Error not permitted. Okay. So, not as fun to look at as through the app itself, but when we're testing things, before you can get the app going, you do have to write these test codes. Okay. Now, log out processing. Okay. What are we going to do here? We're going to get the options back from the cookie. Okay. This is just about how the session people store the cookie. Okay. Then we're going to ask them to destroy the session. Okay. What session was that? The current session we're in. That's where we're saving this information, because in here, if there's not an error, we're going to use those options from the cookie along with the cookie name, okay, and say clear cookie. Okay. This is an express API call. Okay. And what they do in that API, this is not express sessions, but express, is they really do everything. They set the max age of the cookie to 0. They set the cookie name or the contents to null, to empty, and they set the timeout expiration date, not the age, max age, but the expiration date to the current time. So they do everything they can to zero out that cookie, to force that cookie to be expired. Okay.